There we are.
Happened early.
Faster than what I expected. It's the Real and Raw Show. I'm Lynn Serrano.
And I'm Brian.
And we'll be right back after this. Welcome back. Welcome back. How you doing, Brian?
I'm okay. Lots to do today.
Yeah, you were even early. Well, early for you.
Like early for you. Like 14 minutes early.
Yeah, four minutes early or whatever. I was just surprised.
Yeah, it's like this is abnormal. What happens?
Yeah. We sat back there and we kind of just, chilled out for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you, Brian?
Busy, very busy.
Very busy, and I'm always grateful that you find time for our show.
Mm-hmm. Likewise.
Yeah. So today we're going to just take some topics and just bounce them around, I guess. So
sure.
I'm gonna let you go first because it was your idea.
You go first. I didn't even get confirmation you wanted to do this subject because I didn't hear back. So
I actually did I did answer you back. I said sure, but anyhow, It doesn't matter. So the topics, by the way, I know you guys are watching right now because I can see you're watching. So if you have any questions for us, just put us on the spot. Ask us the questions. I don't normally say that, but today I'm saying that. Anyways, as far as topics, this morning I decided to watch a little show with my daughter, and I realized it was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and it was. I mean, man, that was back in June of 1989, before my oldest daughter was born. And it's funny because, it was nostalgic to see the little cars like this, like a little car. I'm like, man, I haven't seen that car in ages, and then the phone booths and they were real creative on that show. I mean, I thought it was, for 34 years back, that was just a lot of creativity, back then with what they were working with. And I thought that was pretty cool. But I checked up. Oh, hi, Sandy. Thanks for being here. I looked up that car real quick, and right now, if you had that car, it's worth $6 to $8 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. Now you were probably a little baby. Well, you were little when Honey Shrunk the Kids came out.
So remember the movie though?
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good movie. It was a good movie.
Like Jumanji. I'll never forget that movie either.
Oh, yeah. Robin Williams was the best in that, though. Mm-hmm. I think it got a little bit more ridiculous as it went on, and later. But I like the first couple Jumanjis were good.
Like a majority of the movies that come out, it's like, okay, just because you succeeded with the first one doesn't mean you should do a second one.
Yeah, just like back in the day, there was the Beetlejuice too.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good one.
Or Dumb and Dumber, and then they tried to do the second one, and then they didn't even want to pay the two guys that, Jim Carrey and whatever the other guy's name is. They didn't want to pay. They wanted to do a second movie without the actors that made the first one what it was. I mean, that makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What's and how are you gonna promote the new one if you don't promote the old one? To refresh, and then you're gonna come and see the whole. It's two different. Yeah, I think it's funny when they do that. But can you think of a series that was pretty good that, I thought Lethal Weapons were good.
Right. But that was also back in a different time of our world too.
Yeah.
Like Die Hards or any of those. But I mean, that's when movies were movies. Now it's, and obviously there's a business side to making movies, and I really can't speak to it because that's not my world. But I mean, like the quality of the acting, the plot, right? Instead of like, let's push out more movies just to see how many awards we're going to win.
Indiana Jones too. That was good. That was good. Mm-hmm. Then they did a couple sequels, and they were pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and Terminators were good too.
Right.
Yeah. But like you said, some of them really, really cared about the craft, and I did like Die Hard.
Taken's another one.
Yeah. So, again, it's like you said, they've really worked really hard. And look at Bruce Willis now. I think he has some memory problems and things like that.
Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers for him. I mean, he was really good actor. I
But I
really
mean,
liked.
the entire scope of things is about quality entertainment versus now it's about making money, which I don't know if it ever was not, because obviously it's, you're not going to make a movie at, just to cover your costs. You're going to do it to make money. But I think it's more about awards and accolades now than it is about actually doing quality acting or making a quality piece.
And it's funny. I just thought about it. I think that they don't make as many movies now with children like they did before, where back then the stories came out. Hi, darling.
Hey, darling.
The stories came out about how children actors weren't. Their parents were well, look at Macaulay Culkin and stuff, like the parents taking all their money,
Right.
and the kids, they grew up and they had nothing. All those teens thing came out, and then all of a sudden, I think because they worked those kids hard.
Correct.
Right. And I mean, they made some really good movies, but the royalties on that, are nothing.
I mean, well, just look at kids today where it's like, okay, if they, back when I was in athletics in high school, I mean, it started in middle school. Now it's starting with them, a few years after they're out of the womb, for Pete's sakes.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I know it might be, I don't know when that starts, but I know it's definitely much earlier. And then you might get the, and there's nothing against it. I get that parents may want to put their kids in a position of getting a scholarship for a certain sport or whatever. But when I hear stories from people, when they're parents or when they go to these games to support their family, and parents like get vulgar and they get upset at the coaches, and I'm like, really? It's like, because they rolled the dice with their kid and gave up everything for the hopes that they might get a scholarship or get an elevated way to go to a school of some kind.
Or there's another spectrum to it, that when my daughter, I think she was probably 10, 11. I don't even remember, but she went ahead and she signed up for YMCA basketball. Well, guess what? All the parents around here figured that was a daycare for it, because guess who ended up being the coach of the basketball team? And I was fine with that, but the point is none of the parents participated, and they didn't actually, they took the money for the event, but they didn't supply a coach whatsoever for them. So I stepped up to the plate, or to the net, if you will. And but then then there's, on a different spectrum, there's my son-in-law, who has not only put my grandson in these sports when he was little, but he's always been his coach or a coach on the team. And so you've got some parents that put it in as a daycare. There's more time for me to go do things. Right. And then you put the times that the parents that are spending time with the kid because they want to do it just to have an activity with their kid and bond.
And I think too, there we can even strip apart how many of those coaches are only in it for what they can get, versus like the real difference maker they can become to some kids that might be, come from troubled times, or they might not have anybody that would be considered a mentor in their family. You know what I mean? In my experience, the only things that I've seen is that parents were fake, where they're a part of the PTA, they do whatever they can to make sure that their kids get scholarships, and then they get out of it, so that they had a preconceived notion about why they were doing it. And it wasn't for the betterment of the athletics or the program. It was to best suit their family, which I think it's very, very one-sided and selfish. That's just me. Where it's like, the only reason why I'm doing this is to get my kid a scholarship and then I'm out. Instead of they're doing it for their own needs, is what I'm speaking of, versus the betterment of the whole program, or for the community, or who truly deserves that scholarship because of their talent, their ability, and overall achievements.
Yeah, and I've seen that, I've heard that, and I know that. So, and then here's my granddaughter. She's 9 years old, and she does travel cheer. That's an expensive sport itself. And so, but my daughter travels with her and stuff, and she just got first place and whatnot, and it's pretty excited. But there's got to be parents' involvement. And then when you work at a hotel, then you got the kids that their parents come in for hockey.
Right.
And those kids, that's a story in itself. Those kids are they're wild and loose and the parents are out drinking in the lobby. So I mean, again, what's in it for whoever or whatever, but again, it just makes the world go around, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyways, your topics there, sir. Any in
yeah,
mind?
it is weather. Wisconsin got some freezing rain.
You're kidding me, right? You're kidding me, right? You're picking up weather.
No, I'm just doing it to point out something. Is that I'm not a weather person. I could care less what it's going to do because life goes on, right? And and it's the biggest thing that I see about the weather is that people plan more about the weather than they do about their life or what they're going to do that day.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes the weather is a topic that people feel neutral to feel somebody out or to see, it's just a
To me,
point
it's
of
a waste of time. That's just my opinion. Like,
yeah. Well,
hey,
I
how's the
rather
weather? Or
I'd rather talk about the weather than like if there's somebody that wants to like talk about people or be negative or something, which they're going to be negative about the weather. If they're going to be so negative about the weather, then you kind of have a feel of where they're at for the day or their temperament.
But it's like, and here's where I'm coming from with this, is that there are people that I know who remain nameless, but just an observation, where they want to know all about the weather, but they don't plan on doing anything with it anyway. So in my opinion, like, why do you care? Like, you're going to sit inside all day.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the weather's going to be this or that. Well, what did you have planned on doing outside? Nothing. Well, then why does it matter? Like, that's why I don't care about the weather, because obviously I'm not, it might make me want to not do any work, like from a productivity standpoint, but it should not change how I feel about what I need to do every day. You know what I mean?
Well, so then how do you feel about asking somebody how they're doing? Do you really care how they're doing?
Yeah, but I would never ask that. I'll just be like, hey, what I heard you're dealing with something. I wouldn't even frame it like that, because I'm not a big fan of small talk.
Yeah.
I'm not. And I would rather, if I know something that they're dealing with, or I don't know, I'd rather go for something more layers deep than just something of substance. Like, hey, are you ready for the Brewer season? Because I know you really, you went to 27 games last year.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I would rather not go for the surface level, pie in the sky type of, and everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, if I'm going to talk to somebody, and it might be my makeup, and I go deep with people, but the surface level stuff really doesn't. Let's talk about something that moves people or is compelling, or that really gets to the heart, or something that's like, wow, I didn't know you remembered that. Versus like the slam dunk easy things, like, hey, what do you think about the baseball season coming up this year? Like, that's not how I choose. I don't want to engage that way, and I don't engage other people that way.
No, I know, and that tells because when you talk about getting to know wedding couples, you want to go deep with that too. Like how, like, I know that one thing in common we have is we love asking people, how'd you meet? And that kind of thing. And that's always nice, because it's always nice to hear how in depth they go about the relationship and where they're at and stuff. And you get a feel for the couple. Yeah. So I like that kind of topic.
But I mean, also though, like, and speaking of wedding couples, it's like there are so many questions out there that are really, in my opinion, dumb, and they give you no access. Like tell me about weddings that that were good, and tell me about weddings that were bad. Okay, I would scratch the weddings that were bad, because I don't want to put that in their head that has to be their reality. But also though, what's good to one might be average to another.
Right.
I'd rather go from what pushes them for their ideal wedding, not what they've seen, and comparing and contrasting with what's available. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd rather have a blank slate and really address things that they don't think is possible, whether it's budget or imagination, than to put that in a box, because no matter our mindsets in the world, is that people are going to put things in a box until that box is extended or removed.
Yeah. And so many people think and see so many things as being black and white, square, or in a box. They don't realize you can color outside the lines.
Right.
That you can speak things and they can exist.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like, even like the end time of a wedding, where I've read a lot of wedding books. A lot of them are there's no pictures, there's no whatever. But a lot of people base the end time of a wedding. If a wedding does not go until end time, now In the Midwest, it's midnight, right? But that's some made up number, that has absolutely nothing to do with the success of a wedding. But the reason why, and I've read a lot of books on this, it's something that's put in the mind that it's like, okay, if a wedding doesn't go from until midnight where people are hanging from the rafters and whatever else, and the place looks like a episode of Animal House, that the wedding wasn't a success.
Wow.
But I mean, obviously everybody's going to have a different visual or set of visuals for their day, right?
Yeah.
But the other piece to it is that, okay, let's unwire why that midnight is. And the only reason why people say that is because that's when the contract is due in a hotel or in a ballroom, right? You have the room until midnight or 11 p.m. on the day of.
Right.
Because at midnight it shifts to the next day, so it's no longer your rental, so to speak.
Yeah.
But when
same thing with the tuxes, right?
Right. Well, when I ask people about, and I remember getting my hair cut one time, and one lady said she didn't know that I was in the industry, and she goes, "Yeah, any wedding that doesn't go until midnight is probably sucks." And I said, "Based on what criteria?"
I mean, if the bride and groom leave early anyways because they want to leave early, I mean, some people may not want to stay, some people may want to party after. I mean, it just.
But then I challenged her. I said, the question you should really consider is, what time did the day start?
Mm-hmm.
And is there gaps in between? Because if there's huge gaps in between the activity versus having everything kind of just ebb and flow, right? Where there is no downtime, especially like a cardinal sin between when the ceremony ends and when the cocktail hour starts. If there's a big gap with nothing for the guests to do, maybe they're from out of town, there's no in a care package for guests or a welcome basket or bag that they're like, hey, things to check out in between, from the end of our ceremony to the beginning. They're going to probably, if they run into other friends, they might be on their own or they might go back to the hotel room and drink.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are in the country. Now, is it their fault? No, things haven't been set up for them in such a way where it makes them feel involved or it makes them feel, but that has all of that is needed to declare if the midnight time frame is validated, because just to go until midnight is just a blanketed number.
Yeah, if it's like the wedding's at 3 and then cocktails at 6, they were drinking before the wedding. They're drinking while the people are taking pictures. By the time they're sloshed. They ain't gonna see no freaking midnight people.
No. And see, when I mentioned that to the lady, she kind of listened to me or whatever. It's like, would you rather have a well-planned event where everything has been considered, the guest experience, your experience, and it flows well?
Yeah.
Right? And then you end at maybe 10:30, 11 on the highest note possible? Or would you rather say that we went until midnight, but the bride and groom aren't even there because you missed the opportunity to, climax the evening and end it the proper way, whatever way that is.
Yeah.
So there's about all of these types of different questions and whatnot. It's like, and I love it, how Jeffrey Gitomer talks about, it's like, there's a lot of different ways he said it, but it's like if you ask boring questions, you get boring answers, or if you ask bad questions, you get bad answers, right?
Yeah.
If you don't ask questions that give you any interesting information, probably because you're not interesting. Like, it's input equals output.
Yeah, and again, I'm sure interviewing people, you definitely find if there's going to be a fun crowd kind of people or mundane kind of people. And there's your friend Michelle.
There's Michelle. It's been a while.
To see you here. She's a photographer, right?
Yep.
Oh,
hey, good morning.
I remember.
She moved away from the wedding industry, I believe, a long time ago. Now she does schools and portraits and seniors and all that, and a lot of sporting events.
He's driving and listening. Thank you, Ken. And Ken's going to have another grandbaby too. So congratulations there, Ken. But yeah, it's interesting to see how people react to different questions. And I like that we touched on, the fact of an in-depth question or surface question. And, it's just, it's funny because sometimes you don't have the time to get into a deep conversation, but like if you go into like the Empire State Building where you're going to the 100th floor and somebody comes in and they're going to the 100th floor, you can have a huge elevator pitch, and conversation. So, again, I mean, it's a time and place for everything. But again, it's nice when you have a conversation with somebody at like maybe a wedding event or something. And then as the evening goes on, you pick up from the conversation, and then you can, continue to pick up momentum from those conversations. I've had some friends from high school growing up. Over the years, we have had some in-depth conversations. And I think the one friend and I, we conversed, and we were saying, it's taken us all these years to actually feel that comfortable, to be that comfortable, Yeah. But that's just how it rolls sometimes,
Well, and I think that the best questions are ones that very few ask because they haven't curated them. They haven't written them down. They haven't studied them, in my opinion. And that's all the years of studying with Jeffrey Gitomer is power questions.
Yeah.
The power questions. I mean, and it's like muscle memory for me. Is a power question is one that gets the person to stop and think, consider new information, and respond in terms of you.
Yeah. Well, I don't care what the conversation is, as long as there's laughter, there's fun, and there's engaging on each other's part. That's what's really important to me. And I mean, like, sometimes the couple seconds we have backstage, sometimes we get engaged in some really good conversations, like, oh, it's going to be time to go on the show,
Well, so. And I think too, especially within a business realm where everybody's got something to sell or whatever, and the only way that somebody knows of what your integrity is if you don't ask, right? It's like, if you're strictly talking about business, and talk about business, but be authentic and self-expressed. Right. Don't hide anything, state what your intention is, get right to it. Anything that needs to be shared in advance. So like when you actually interact, you can interact and get right to business.
Yeah.
Right. But don't hide things from people. Don't be that elusive person that doesn't want to come clean about what you really want to know or ask.
Well, it's funny you say this, and I know we got to get going, but I came off of a comment I saw in a post, and I noticed I was friends with this guy just yesterday, and I read some of his pages, and he's just very interesting. He's just he cares about humans, period. He doesn't care what social status you come from, but everybody has their ups and downs, but he cares about humans. And I have to say, I don't know when we became friends, but I like your page, and I thought I'd say hi. And it's like, I feel like I almost should read what he wrote, but it was great because it's something I would have said. I said, he goes, as long as you're not trying to sell me something, blah, blah, blah. It was actually, I'm going to look it up because it was I just loved it. He just, he goes, hello, at least that was more of a friendly introduction than most. As long as you don't try to sell me something or tell me that I am on a winning list, then we're cool. I was like, and then I just enjoyed our conversation. And it was just like I said, I had to read it verbatim because I just loved it. I was like, oh, dude, I'm the same way. I'm not here to sell or whatever. I'm just getting to know you, being on my Facebook. And I don't know when we became friends. We have mutual friends. And but he was a really cool human being to talk to yesterday. So I really appreciated that.
I think too, just by his two things, you're not there to sell me something or whatever. And I think that people have their guard up more now than ever. And I think if somebody's going to allocate their time, that's a huge clue.
Yep.
Especially with how easy it is to click onto a link if it's a video call. If somebody's willing to give you a little bit of their time, but then they fully believe you, right? That it's like, okay, here's the intention or why we're talking. You better stay committed to that, because otherwise they're going to see you as a phony. They're going to see you as a lack of integrity.
Exactly. But like I said, I told him, hey, I'm just here to just bring joy, laughter, and being silly and goofy. And I don't like to judge, even judging, because, it doesn't get you anywhere. It's not worth it. But we have stayed here way longer than we anticipated, as we always love to chat once we get going here. But as always, Brian, thank you for being here. And I'm just dropping some crumbs here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to announce something. There'll be a little change, but I just wanted to drop that crumb. So anything else you want to say before we leave, Brian?
I'll leave it up to you for the final words today.
All right. As always, I love spending this time with you. I thank everybody that's chiming in that actually, she misses you too.
That's what the replay's for, Michelle.
No, you
it's
didn't.
all good.
Yeah, she loves being here live. So many of our people. Well, hopefully, the little bit that we're going to talk about, maybe that'll fit in your schedule. There'll be a schedule change here in the next couple of weeks that might fit better for you, Michelle. So stay tuned for that information in the next couple of weeks. So until then, you guys have a great week. Make it the best. Laughed and get something. Have hearty conversations is what I got to say. That are just not surface, but something that's, something that it's nice when you get to know a person on a deeper level, and then you can always go back to that as a reference that you shared something with someone that you normally don't share. She goes, perfect. I'll be watching. So, all right, you guys have a good one and we'll talk to you soon. Love you, Brian.
Love you too, Lynn.